What's crack-lacking, everyone? Luxens here, your coach of the Hangzhou Sparkling Aria. Today we are facing off in our UPBA Week 2 matchup versus Sally Mumble, coach of the Austin Tauros. Please go check out all his links in the description below. He's a great content creator, and so go subscribe to him, go follow him on Twitter, etc. You might be wondering, Lux, why is this game on Showdown? I thought this was a Wi-Fi league, and you would be correct. It is a Wi-Fi league, however, the system of LAN is not perfect. So we actually tried to get connected a few times. After a while it did end up working, but the game was very laggy. I'll try and splice a bit of footage in there. Let me actually make a note of that on my phone, so I'll remember. Around, like, what, 40 seconds, alright. So I'll try and have a bit of footage in there while I'm talking. But the game was very laggy. And essentially what happened around like turn 20 or something like that, we got disconnected. We were already like 20 to 25 turns in probably into the game, so having to recreate that, or also having connection troubles, just does not sound fun on Wi-Fi. So we asked Jack, hey, can we do this on Showdown, because it'll just be easier for us to recreate the scenarios and get the game into the position that we were at. So I will be going over certain plays and why that happened, because we did a few things differently from the actual game, because there was a little bit of hacks involved, just so we could get like the game to a state that was as close as possible to whatever we were at. I remember because we got really unlucky with the RNG for our recreations. We had to recreate this like at least 10 times, so genuinely big shoutouts to Sally Mumble for staying and actually doing this. It took us genuinely like an hour 45 to get the whole game done. We were gonna play at like midnight my time. We were done by just about 2, like a little earlier, like 15 minutes earlier or some shit like that, or 20 minutes earlier. It genuinely took so long, so actually huge shout out to him, because it genuinely just took so much time from both of us, which is really annoying, obviously, but it does happen. So, as I said, a few plays ended up going a little differently, just so we could have a proper scenario that we would actually end at, rather than have, like, I don't know, have to replay the game or have to redo stuff. We want to get in as close as possible. So, for example, in the game, Sally wasn't Haze Milotic. He's Haze Milotic here because of a certain bit of play that we need to get. I make a play later on, but I'll explain what actually happened in the game while that play is happening, and then I'll go over like why we did what we did as well. So let's just get started in the game now, because I've already taken a bit to explain stuff. So I lead with Dialga here, because my game plan was get up rocks first turn. If you led Pheromosa, which was really the only thing threatening my Dialga, I wanted to just get a kill on that, so I was Troppleberry on this to try and get the kill there. I'll pull up his team as well, because obviously you can see these 6 mons, but he has more. I know he has a Heatran from the top of my head, and I know that there is, I think Aruna Regas and then Alolan Dugtrio he has. So let me just get his team right there. He has a Pheromosa, a Kyurem, a Heatran, a Mandibuzz, a Milotic, a Toxtricity, a Whimsicott, a Aruna Regas, a Boltund, a Kangaskhan, a Dugtrio Alola, and a Shedinja. Now, I want to get rocks here, turn 1, because I noticed, hey, his defoggers are Mandibuzz and Whimsicott, and I feel like I can beat those pretty easily with my team. Having a Weavile, having a Feeny, having a Dialga that kind of just can do whatever, having a Zapdos for that Whimsicott, having a G-Slowking for that Whimsicott. So, Mandibuzz felt like the more likely one to come, and I felt like I could beat Mandibuzz pretty easily with my bottom row, for example. So, I felt like rocks would be very important. Pheromosa obviously likes U-turn in and out so that would be huge. If he's like a Specs or Scarf Germ, I want to punish that as much as possible. Toxtricity is another one. If he clicks Volt Switch, or if he's like a Life Orb set, I want to will him down as much as possible. Same for Mandibuzz. If I can knock that with like Mienshao, then obviously Stealth Rock will do a lot. Milotic, if he's like a Flame Orb set, Stealth Rock plus Flame Orb will stack up, and that is very important to me in this game. So I do lead with my Dialga here to get those rocks up, but still I didn't feel like it had a good matchup, and I really did want rocks this game, so I made Dialga my rocker, which it's very reliable at doing that, so I can't complain. And he led Toxtricity here. Now, obviously, my assumption would be, oh, he's Overdrive, he's Boom Burst, he's Sludge Wave, maybe he's like Shift Gear Drain Punch. So right now he can't do much to me, so I didn't go for like an Earth Power play or a Draco Meteor or anything else. I just got up rocks as he goes out into his Kangaskhan right here. Now, the Kangaskhan is somewhat scary, because I know this is going to click like Body Slam or something like that. And from the way he brought it in, it did seem that he was like either Spadef with like Wish, or he was going to be like AV or something. And he does reveal the Power Punch here. Now, in the actual game, I do believe that I'm static. However, obviously, if he's going to Power Punch me or Body Slam me, he risks the static. So, he didn't get the static. He didn't get static in-game. So, to make it easier on us, we just made it pressure just so we wouldn't have to recreate every time we got static parried. He does go for a Power Punch here, which doesn't do a lot of damage. And I will Volt Switch out here, just to scout damage and stuff like that. This is a Spec Zapdos, by the way, so this tells me this is AV as fuck. He goes for the Body Slam here, and I got out into my Mienshao, because I want to be able to pressure this out. If I got into Slowking, I would take a Body Slam. Slowking is my Pheromosa counter, or answer rather. If I go Feeny, I risk losing to... Actually, I could have gone Feeny probably, because I was mainly for the... what's it called? I was mainly Feeny for the Heatran, which didn't end up coming, but Feeny does play a more crucial role later in the game. So I just ended up going out into Mienshao, knowing that I could risk the Body Slam here, because I was also trying to scout for Ice Punch, or him making a prediction of like Earthquake or something like that. Mienshao just felt like the overall best play here, so I just went out into that. Unfortunately, he does go for Body Slam. He doesn't get the para, it does a lot of damage, but he doesn't get the kill, and that's what's important. So here, I do just go for the Close Combat on the Mandibuzz as just my safest play, and I do U-turn out into the Zapdos as it's pretty free here. Now the Mandibuzz U-turns out as well, so he brings in the Kyurem here, and in the original game, what happened is I Hurricane the Kyurem, he subs, I miss a Hurricane on the Kyurem sub as he roosts, and then I hit a Hurricane as he freeze dries. So that would leave him at like roughly 75 to 80%. Obviously, getting that exact Hurricane sequence is very tough. So what we ended up deciding on is that I would Thunderbolt while he just freeze dries me, because freeze dries didn't kill, so that's completely fine. I Thunderbolt here, get roughly the same damage because I'm Specs, and we'll be able to get into a position which is much closer to what the game actually was from there. So I Thunderbolt here. I get a very low roll, but it doesn't really matter. He was at like 80 to 75% probably, so this is fine. He freeze dries, doesn't get the kill, and I do go out into Mienshao as he roosts here. I don't remember exactly why he roosted. Oh yeah, I remember now. So what happened was he subbed the turn after he freeze dried, thinking I would switch out my Zapdos, but I Hurricaned. So he was like 50%, or he was like relatively lowish, I think. I don't actually remember exactly what happened there. I'm gonna go check the VOD real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so I just checked the VOD real quick, and what happened was I hurricaned here, and he roosted on the hurricane to scout what I would want to do. He ended up on like 60% HP or something like that, so he probably was a little bit lower than 80%. Realistically, it doesn't matter too much. This is as close as we could get the game anyway, which we got this really close, so big props to us, I'd say. But I just kept spamming Hurricane there, and I think he was just trying to get a Hurricane miss so he could sub up freely. So he ended up roosting to full at after 2 roosts after I Hurricaned, and then switched out my Zapdos in this scenario, essentially. So, predicting his roost, I got out into Mienshao, also because Mienshao didn't die to a Freeze Dry or an Earth Power or anything of the sorts at this point, because I am a very specially defensive AV Mienshao, so I knew I would be fine versus one of those. I knew he wasn't too invested because of the Zapdos damage, and I just decided that that was my best play. He roosts back to full anyway, so we shall resume from here. Now, I go for the knock here, thinking that either the Manabuzz or the Milotic would come in on the CC. So, knock seemed like the better play. I could get rid of Manabuzz's boots, which would be very nice, and it was also in close combat range after that, if I really wanted to do that. Or I would get the leftovers or the Flame Orb or anything of the sort off of the Milotic, which is also very good for me. Now, I do knock off here, as I said. I get the Milotic's Flame Orb, which is very good for my Weavile potentially late game, or Mienshao end game with close combat. And I just decide to U-turn here into the Zapdos. I had calced Flip Turn wouldn't kill me if he was a minus Tag Nature set, which makes sense for a Flip Turn, like, what's it called? A Flip Turn, Flame Orb, Recover, like, type Milo. But he did reveal Whirlpool here in the actual game, so obviously that did like 6% maybe to my Zapdos, but the residual damage did kill the Zapdos, so we just said, just click Scald here, or just click an attacking move that kills the Zapdos that isn't Whirlpool, or just put Scald over Whirlpool, or anything like that. Just so we could guarantee the kill here, as it didn't come into play later in the game with Whirlpool, so it was fine to do that. So I decided to go out into my Dialga here, for the reason that I do have Thunder on this Dialga, and this is why we put Haze on this Milo. So, in the original game, I just landed the Thunder immediately, so he doesn't get to attack. So for the recreation, after a while, we said, okay, let's just make you Haze, because otherwise we're just gonna sit here missing Thunders and Hurricanes over and over. That's also when I came up with the Thunderbolt play on the Kyurem, I think, or we came up with it. I don't remember who came up with it exactly. Regardless, we said, okay, let's just make you Haze, so we can just spam that for the Thunder play, and then we don't have to risk like Scald or Scald Burns, because I think in like one of the very first recreations we did get to this point. I missed the Thunder, he Scalded me, hit me, got the burn. I was like, just go on. I honestly don't really care about that too much. And then I missed another Thunder, and he got like 40% chip combined on Dialga, and because of Scald Burn damage. So I was like, okay, yeah, that is too much, because if I lose if I miss another Thunder here, I might as well have lost my Dialga. So we decided, alright, let's just do something to prevent that. Luckily, however, for us, we did actually need it, so it was very good that we did that, and I do kill with the Thunder here in the end. Now here, I do make a bit of a risky play. I go back out into the Mienshao on his Kangaskhan, just wanting to see if he goes for a Power Punch or an Earthquake or anything of the sorts. But he does just go for the Body Slam again. If he had parried me here, that would have been huge, but luckily he didn't. So I just go for the Close Combat and get the kill into the Mana Buzz as he goes out into the Kyurem. Now, what happened here? I think he went into the wrong Pokemon. Oh no, I remember. So, the Mienshao didn't actually die. Or the Mana Buzz didn't actually die to Mienshao Close Combat in the game itself. So I Close Combated, U-turned, went into, I think, the G-Slowking, and then we went from there. So what we did instead is I went out to my G-Slowking. With U-turn, he goes out into his Kyurem. He subs as I go out into G-Slowking, and he subs again. As he subbed on my G-Slowking. So on the first turn, like the G-King and the Kyurem were both out, he subbed, I clicked Sludge Bomb. So just to recreate that, he subbed again, just so we can get to this position. And in the end, that actually works out perfectly, as he used one less sub against the Zapdos. So we get to the same sub PP as well, which could maybe matter in an endgame versus like G-Slowking, Kyurem, something like that, but that's fine. So the reason why he double subbed here is because of that. I Sludge Bomb here just to get damage on the sub, and he Earth Powers here, and in the actual game he got a Spadef drop as I break this sub here. So he got like Spadef drop, so he went for Earth Power again, just to guarantee the kill onto the G-Slowking. So I went out into Tapu Fini taking that Earth Power, which is... Or did he go for sub? No, yeah, actually he did go for sub, which... I'm stupid, but... I figured that he would potentially go for the Earth Power, that's why I went into Tapu Fini. But he did go for the sub, and I have a very Spadef Fini, so that doesn't end up doing a lot. With Freeze Strike, because he's not fully Spadef invested or Spatak invested and stuff like that. So I do just break the sub with Moonblast as he goes out into Toxtricity here on the Moonblast. He Shift Gears as I just Surf for damage, because I figured if he Shift Gear here, he could probably do a lot of damage to the rest of my team. Well, if he just clicks Overdrive on the Fini here, I can just go out into Dialga, I can do whatever, but if he was like a special Shift Gear set with, what's the item, Throw Spray, he could potentially do a lot of damage to me. Or, I don't actually know how much damage he would have done to the Dialga, so I do actually want to check what it gets for that other than Drain Punch. Because if it gets like Low Kick or something, then I think my concern was more warranted, because otherwise I could have just gone Dialga in hindsight, but I did want to preserve Chople Berry as well for the Pheromosa. But let's actually see. His Drain Punch has a possibility, does not have a Low Kick as a possibility. I think I could have beat this by just going Heart Dialga then, but I also feel like in the end it is the better play to just Surf here to make sure that the Toxtricity does minimal damage as, what's it called? I was gonna say something. To make sure the Toxtricity does minimal damage. Oh yeah, as Fini is probably the most expendable Mon on my team, due to no Heatran being there or no, like, Renorigas being there and stuff like that. So now he does outspeed me, obviously, which, sure. And he reveals that he is physical Shift Gear Toxtricity with Life Orb, which, let me just let the Life Orb damage tick in. So, that was a really cool thing from him, in my opinion, because that is just not something I would have expected. Which probably would have done a lot more damage to my Dialga, and probably would have done like, what, 60% maybe with Drain Punch? I don't actually know that calc from top of my head, because that's not something I calc for. And overall, it's just smart versus my team, I think, versus a Feeny, versus a G-Slowking, which could be a V. I brought AV Mienshao last week as well, so I think it makes a lot of sense to go for a physical shift gear set, especially since Toxtricity's physical attack is not actually that bad. So, it could also have been mixed, but Gunk Shot, physical Gunk Shot here makes sense to me. So, I think that was a very good bring from him. Yeah, it could have been like Throw Chop, for example, for DG Slowking, which makes a lot of sense. So, more props to him. However, because of my Surf play, he is in a range of both Fake Out from Mienshao and Ice Shard from Weavile, so I do end up going out into the Mienshao as I think it's my safest play. It gives me health back on the Mienshao as well, so if I need to, I can cycle out my Mienshao and G-Slowking on the Kyurem if Mienshao were to get frozen or something like that from Kyurem's Freeze Dry, and it gives me more health to potentially revenge something that if I need it. So he does go out into the Pheromosa here, because obviously Kyurem at 50% can't kill this Mienshao. Kangaskhan also can't kill this Mienshao, so he's forced to go into Pheromosa, where he reveals he's not Boots, which is interesting to me, but in the end I always have to go G-Slowking here, as that is my Pheromosa pivot. So he goes for Triple Axle, and I immediately notice, okay, he's Protective Pads, as I am a Rocky Helmet G-Slowking. I figured that he would prioritize Ice Move and Poison Jab, plus Close Combat he needed for Dialga and U-turns, obviously just Pheromosa's best move in 95% of matchups, so it makes sense to have it on there. So that was my predicted move set for him. I thought he would go like Ice Beam over Triple Axle with like a heavy duty boot set, or maybe like Life Orb, something like that. But he did opt to go for Protective Pads, which is also a very fair bring versus like Rocky Helmet spam or like Static Zapdos, which I was, admittedly, and I did have a Rocky Helmet one, so in the end it was a great bring from him. As I do just take that in the end. It does hurt quite a bit with the crit, obviously, but that's totally fine. I do just Sludge Bomb here on the Pheromosa as a U-turn on me, and I think the Kyurem here goes for Earth Power. Oh yeah, Earth Power on the G-Slowking, probably potentially predicting the Weavile to come in on a Freeze Dry or something like that. I think Earth Power overall was a decent middle ground play, as if the Weavile came in, it would do more damage. Maybe with a Spadef drop, you can force me to not SD up or something like that. So overall, I think it's a fair play. Freeze Dry probably would have accomplished similar things, but it would be worse against Weavile, better against Mienshao. So really up to what he valued there. Now, I do just go Mienshao here, obviously, because I'm Spadef AV, and I can revenge the Kyurem here. As I think he goes out to Pheromosa again, I go out into G-Slowking, he goes for Triple Axle, as that is his best damaging move that doesn't lower his defenses, and if the G-Slowking comes in, obviously it does more damage. He just goes for Triple Axle twice here, as I go into Weavile to get the Ice Shard damage off, as he goes into close combat, and at this point, I kind of have him in a checkmate scenario. I can just go Mienshao here, Fake Out, and then Close Combat. Fake Out, even if he switches out, the Kangaskhan won't live the Close Combat following that, and he can't switch back into the Pheromosa to take that, so he has to pick him on the sack. I can sack my Dialga and then Fake Out the Pheromosa as the last turn as well. So I have won the game by this point as long as I make the right plays. And I do think he stays in here. So yeah, he does stay in on the Fake Out. As I said, if you went Kangaskhan here, I could literally just CC. Then the Pheromosa comes in, is at like 17%. I go Dialga. He has to click CC to kill Dialga. I'm Choppel, so after 2 CCs, he would be at -2 as well, and he would still die to Fake Out. But in the end, he opted to just risk or just go for that as the game was already over, and then I closed combat. I think it maybe could have preserved diff, but it really depends. Overall, really good game to Sally, in my opinion. It was a really entertaining game to play. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it on Wi-Fi, obviously. But from a gameplay standpoint, or a player standpoint rather, it was a very fun game to play. There was a lot of interesting sets, in my opinion. Like, for example, Spec Zapdos is not something you see a lot. Most people tend to gravitate towards defensive builds, and especially versus a Pheromosa team, I think people would expect a defensive build more often than not. Physical Shift Gear Toxtricity, actual phenomenal set. I really like that. So big ups to him. And stuff like that is just very cool to see him play. It shows the creativity of the players, and I think that is probably why most people watch Draft, or play Draft rather. So overall, as I said, great game to Sally. Go check him out in the description below, please do. And next week we do face Shayquaza, who I haven't played since GUU, which is a league that died in like 2019 or something like that, or maybe 2020. I think it was 2019, which is honestly mind-blowing because Shay was in the first league first Wi-Fi league I've ever played in. So the fact that I haven't actually played him that much is kind of insane. But I'll see you guys next week with our week 3 battle. Peace out.